the legislative session has concluded. All the bills have been signed. And there's one that we just kind of want to take note of today that was sort of buried in the state budget and has gone into effect. And that one has to deal with now a statewide prohibition on foreign principals either purchasing or leasing property of any sort in the state. And we talk about in the bill, the statute, it specifies certain countries, China, Russia, Iran, Syria, as well as North Korea. And those foreign principals are defined as any company or entity that's organized under the laws or having a principal place of business in that country, or is a natural person who's an employee or agent of a foreign country of concern. But this bill changed quite a bit from the time it was originally introduced to what actually came out and has been approved. NHR was heavily involved in some of the discussions because of the impact it was going to have on both agents as well as sellers of property, as well as landlords. And we were able to insert some language in there, Matt, into the bill, which provides a level of protection for our members, for buyers and for sellers. And if you want to elaborate a little bit on that.
Sure. So what we were able to add and what Bob's team was able to do with the legislature is to add in a provision that says essentially the real estate agent or closing agent is going to bear no obligation or responsibility to either to enforce or disclose or do anything relative to this, absolute statutory prohibition if you fit within a class of people, either entities or individuals that the state of New Hampshire has now deemed that it's impermissible that you can buy property. And so obviously that's a serious statute and a prohibition, unlike frankly anything else that I'm aware of that we have in our statute book. So we wanted to make sure that agents weren't on the receiving end of being sort of the police force for enforcing this no purchase requirement. So that's why we built in that language.
So they don't have to instruct, they don't have to disclose, don't need to assist. It's all entirely on the responsibility lies solely with that foreign principal to be aware of this law, correct?
Correct.
And now, New Hampshire, obviously, sensitivity of all of this and issues that we brought up during the discussion of this bill was about other bills in New Hampshire. It's RSA 554A8 having to do with fair housing provisions. And one of those is pretty clear that you are not allowed to discriminate based upon national origin of that person. So how does this new language fit in with that existing language?
Sure. And so that's the tricky part. So I would say as an agent, you have a overriding obligation to comply with the Fair Housing Act, and so that you should handle and represent any seller or buyer without thinking about national origin or whether they're from a particular area of the world or any of that nature. Realistically, given how this statute's written and how the Fair Housing Act's written, you run far greater risk of a Fair Housing Act violation if you start to engage in practices of not representing certain classes or suspected classes of people. The only other place where I see it to be tricky for agents is one, if a seller happens to know of this statute and ask the question like the agent, like, what do we have to do with that? I would say in my mind that if you get that question from the agent, from a seller, you should tell the seller they should talk to their own attorney, either the closing attorney or their own personal attorney, to get some guidance about how to deal with or how to protect themselves against that statute. That really shouldn't be the agent's responsibility to guide the seller in how to navigate this set of circumstances. The other scenario I see happening is if you happen to be in the middle of a transaction and become aware personally that there is someone who would qualify as a foreign principal who is in the process of either leasing the property or trying to buy the property, in which case, at that point in time, if you have actual personal knowledge, then you need to bring that to the attention of the other parties and the buyer and the seller, and ensure that appropriate disclosure requires. I don't think you don't have any obligation to go out of your way to find information out, but once you actually know it, I don't think an agent can sit there and just be knowingly silent and let the transaction close. So that would be a situation for you to please reach out to your principal broker, reach out to your attorney to get some guidance. Okay, I now know about this. What do I do about it?
That's great. And just a reminder, this bill, a new law is in effect. It went into effect on July 1st. So again, something to consider for members. Thanks, Matt.